also here. We are going to be looking at present perfect today. Okay, I know this is a new tense that we will be looking at, and it ain't difficult, but it is a little bit complex. Okay, let's get started. First, before we start reviewing present perfect, we have to look at simple past. Use simple past to talk about actions that happened in the past. And actually, we usually use time expression in simple past. We use the time expression to mention when the action happened. For example, I went to Paris a year ago. Now, present perfect, on the other hand, we use present perfect to talk about an action that happened in the past at an unspecified time. On this case, time is not important, okay? Or maybe we don't know when the action happened. So time will not be mentioned. If you were to say, I went to Paris a year ago, you will use simple past because you're being specific. On the other hand, present perfect, you're not being specific, so you won't mention time. So time is not important, okay? And that's what separates simple past and present perfect. There's a thin line that separates it, and that's time. Okay, time, that's the difference. If I have these two sentences, one that might be I went to Paris a year ago, or the other one I have been to Paris, or which one would you use? It will depend on you. It will depend on what you want to express. If you want to focus on the fact that you were in Paris a year ago, if you want to focus on that, then you will use simple past. But if you just want to focus on the fact that you were in Paris some point in your life, not necessarily last year, maybe you were there when you were a baby, then in that case you will use present perfect to focus on the action actually. So if you were wondering if you can use simple past and present perfect in the same action, it will depend on what you want to focus on. If you want to focus on time, then you will use simple past. Okay, maybe you know when it happened, or it's important to mention when. It's important to mention the time. Then you will use then you can use simple past. Okay, but if the time is not important and you want to focus more on the action, then you would use present perfect. Okay, so when do we use present perfect? Okay, when we don't know when the action happened. Okay, we don't care when the action happened, and it is not important when the action happened. Okay, so we focus on the action. That's what we do in present perfect. So next we have present perfect. Okay, we're still focusing on this, and we use present perfect again to talk about an action that happened in the past. Okay, but we don't know exactly when. Okay, this is present perfect. Here I have a set of sentences for you to see how it is used. Okay, for example, I have eaten empanadas some point in my life. Okay, Henry has gotten a cocacho some point in his life. Okay, Leah and Jen have already seen this movie. This action already happened. Kelly has been to Peru. Leo hasn't stayed in a salt hotel yet. I haven't changed my mind. Teresa has never done this. Okay, so here is how you can use present perfect in sentences, either affirmative or negative. And we will be seeing more of these in a bit. So, present perfect, an action that happened in the past at an unspecified time, right? So, we do not use specific time in present perfect, okay? But we have indicators or time reference that help us to be a little bit more specific with time. So, for example, some of these references are since, for, already, yet, just, and recently. Of course, all of these you do need to pay attention how they are used. Here we're actually missing, for example, lately can also be here in the present perfect reference. Ever, never, okay? Because these are words that you use in present perfect. But like I said, pay attention to how these words are used. So first, let's look at some time reference. Okay, for example, we have since, we have for, already, just, and recently. We use since to say when something started. For example, Samira has been a teacher since 2010. So here we're using since to talk about when Samira started being a teacher. Samira has been a teacher for 10 years. We use for to talk about a period of time. Okay, so that's the difference. We use since to say when something started, and we use for to talk about a period of time. So it can be for 10 years, for a week, for 3 years. Okay. Next, we have the word already. I have already eaten majadito, or Iris has eaten majadito already. In this case, you can see the placement of already. Already can go either between the auxiliary, which is have, and the past participle, in this case, eaten, or it can go at the end of the sentence. Okay, so these are the places where you can put the adverb already. Okay, so pay attention to the placement and the use, because here we have it in affirmative. Now, we can also use the word just and recently. Okay, I've just made dinner. We have recently cleaned the house. Okay, so these are just indicators to say that this action happened not long ago, because it just can be like in the morning or 1 day ago or 3 days ago. It doesn't necessarily mean like a minute ago, but it just gives you the idea that it wasn't such a long time ago. So let's move on to other time reference. We have ever, never, and yet. Actually, we use ever to mention some point in your life, and we usually use it in questions. Have you ever eaten sopa tapada? So this means some point in your life, since the moment you were born until now. Have you ever gone to Oruro? This means since you were born till now. All right, we have another question, and actually here I am missing a question mark. So how about we just mark it? Hold on. Right there. Okay. Has she ever been to Potosí? Okay, it's another question. Lore has never seen the Illimani. So here we actually have never, which means not once in your life. It has a negative connotation, so you will not be using it with negative. It already has a negative meaning. So Lore has never seen, not Lore hasn't never seen, because that will be two negatives. Okay, so that will be incorrect. Jose hasn't cleaned his room yet. And here is yet, the other word, okay? Yet, it means that the action did not happen, but it might. We don't know. Until now, it has not happened. And it is used in negative sentences. Now, we will be looking at more information about present perfect. In this case, we're looking at verb forms, okay? Now, if you are going to think about verbs, when we think about verbs, we think about irregular verbs and regular verbs. Now, here I have some examples. The regular verbs are the ones that end in ed. On the other hand, when you have the irregular verbs, they don't follow any rules. They are like rebellious. So you basically have to work a lot on them because they change all the time. Okay. And now to past participle, which, here is another thing that you have to be careful with, because irregular verbs actually change, guys. So now you have to learn another form of verb. Okay. So for example, go is gone, take, taken, eat, eaten, do, done. So yes, more work for you. I'm so sorry, but this is part of learning, right? So we will need to work on the new structures, on the new vocabulary, not only on the spelling, but also on the pronunciation. And do not forget that we're still working on simple past verbs. We're always working on simple past regular verbs, on the pronunciations, okay? Which actually that will not be a problem for you here, because the past participle form of regular verbs is the same as simple past. So the verbs that end in ed will be the same. Here are the structures for present perfect and for affirmative, for negative, for yes no questions, and for information questions. We have some sentences. Let's see. Flavia has already been to La Paz. We have just received a confirmation call. Belen has been the best student since 2009. Gary and I have been friends since I was 10 years old. We've been in each other's life for 15 years. Jenny and I haven't visited Gaia yet. I've never seen the sunset. My mother changed her mind about the party and gave me permission to go. Have you ever gone to Samaipata? How many times have you visited your friends? So, it is time for you guys to copy the lesson on your notebook. I hope you guys understood. If you have any questions, write them down and you can ask me tomorrow in class. All right? Have a good one, guys. Have a good day. Be safe. See ya.